Learn how to use the length property of a node list to calculate exactly how many elements match your CSS selector query. So here is my boilerplate code, and we want to look at how you can actually use the length property alongside the node list to calculate or to know exactly how many elements matches our CSS selector query. So for this length property, think of it like an automatic item counter that is built into your node list folder. So when you use the query selector all method, JavaScript scan the page and then it will now drop every paragraph it's find into a bundle. So the length property just simply open that bundle. It then counts the item inside and hand you the total number. So you know exactly how many items are available to read or look through. And that is the purpose of the example that we're going to be looking at. So let's go ahead and look at the example. So let's make a couple of paragraph tags here and put different text content. You don't necessarily need to follow what I'm using as my own text content. It could be anything that you want or that resonates with you. Hello, Python. So I have these three elements, and I already have an ID of demo that corresponds to my code output space that I have here. So let's go into the script tag, and in the script tag, the first thing to do is let's make a variable. Let's call it my node list as our variable name. And with this variable name, let's call on the document that references everything that is on the page and use the query selector method, the query selector all method, to select all instances of our paragraph on the page. Now, you might want to ask that, but we are working with the length property. So why do we need a query selector method again? Well, the reason why we need it is because if there's nothing that has gathered the elements that you want to count or know the number of, how do you use the property? So that is the purpose of why we need the query selector all again. So we need it to first harvest all the instances of P on the page and bundle them into a node list. That is when we can now apply the length property to count what is inside that node list folder and get out the exact number of the elements that is removed. So now that we have done this, it's time to display our results. Display results. So how do you display results? Well, I'll use document.getElement by ID method and pass in demo dot inner HTML. So I'll add a text. So this is just a string text, nothing else. This document contains my node list. Then I'll call on the variable name dot the property dot length. You can see the node list dot length property returns the number of items in the node list dot length. Add paragraph. This is just a simple string. So now, if you look at my screen, you should see this document contains 7 paragraphs. Is it that actually true? Well, let's find out. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Correct. And you can see that the query selector all selected all the instances of P on the page. And we have 7 in total. I just counted this manually, and you can see that it corresponds to the output that we are getting in this output, in this display screen. So this example just shows us how JavaScript group all our 7 tags on our page, and then it checks the bundle length, the value, and then outputs the results out for us on the screen. Now, like I've explained that this part, our document of query selector all method find every instance of P in our code layer. So it then matches the elements in total, the first, the second, up to the 7th one. And then once it has done that, it will bundle them into a node list folder. And on the other hand, the my node list.length, this part here that we have here, what it does is that it evaluates to the raw integer value of the number of paragraphs that we have on our code layout. So it doesn't care what text is inside the paragraph. So it only tracks the physical count of matching nodes, which means the content of that node does not matter to the length property. What it does is that it just can't, it only tracks the physical count of matching node. That is, once it identifies something as P, then it will pick it and count it. So that is how it works in JavaScript. Now, here are a few key takeaways from this lesson. The length method always provides the total count of element nodes currently indexed using your specific node list. Number 2, empty elements or element placeholder are counted towards the total length. What I'm saying is this. Let's say I add one more and I say something like this. Let's say I give it a class of maybe my node. You can see that even though this paragraph is empty, as you can see it's just a placeholder. You can see that immediately I added it, then the .length property has added it to the number of paragraph, and now you can see it as the total number of our paragraph. So empty elements or element placeholder elements like this one are counted towards the total length as long as it matches the node, that is this P at the node. So as long as it matches them, the length property will automatically count them. It does not care about whether there's content inside it or is a placeholder or an empty tag. So as long as it matches the node, then JavaScript will count it as a valid instance of that element, and then the length property will automatically calculate it and give us the exact number of elements that we have inside our node folder, as it has been demonstrated in this example.